In this week's episode of Investors Corner, we're joined by Andre, one half of Andre and Debbie, our new avocado partners that have just launched in the Caversham area. Now, we'll be speaking to Andre about why Caversham, what has Caversham got to offer, what type of community does it have, what are average rental prices doing, what type of properties you have there, and why it is a great investment opportunity for property investors. Now, as Andre has over 20 years experience being in the mortgage game, we'll also be talking to him towards the end of the episode about current mortgage rates. What are they currently doing and what can we see them doing, and how will that benefit people in buying property? So make sure that you're listening to this one, and make sure that you subscribe to the Investors Corner for hours of free content on investing and especially property investing.
Welcome back to the Investors Corner for our second episode of 2024. Today we introduce Andre Bartlett, an incredibly experienced mortgage broker turned estate agent.
You nearly said old, didn't you?
No, I was going to say good looking, but I didn't want to go in that early.
Okay.
It's quite rare that you mortgage broker turns estate agent. I see quite a lot of estate agents turning mortgage broker, but you're flipping it on its head. Now, Andre's specialising in the Caversham area. I almost said the Caversham area of Reading there, which would have insulted half of Caversham. A very, very particular part of the town, Caversham. Yep. Very independent part of the town, higher end of the town. We're here to grill Andre on Caversham and Caversham specifically. I'm interested to know why a mortgage broker becomes an estate agent, and to know what specialism that gives you over any other estate agent, because I feel like 80% of our time on our podcast isn't actually talking about estate agency, it's talking about money.
Yeah.
So interestingly, we've got an estate agent that's probably going to talk about money, I would say. Yeah. So let's get into it.
Well, as about 40% of properties are owned mortgage free, I thought I can only deal with 60% of the public. So I thought, become an estate agent, I can deal with the other 40%. But no, why become an estate agent? It's been something, I mean, I've been in estate agency since 99, I think it was. I joined, are we allowed to say other estate agencies' names?
Yeah.
I joined Prospect.
I might throw fruit at you, but
and I joined Prospect, and as a mortgage broker, the bit that interested me the most was the property side. It always has done, and it's always been something that after Prospect, I worked for Savills, and obviously completely different market, London, bigger prices, bigger numbers, but ultimately it's still people and their homes. And for me, the finance side of it is getting people into their home, and that's never changed. And for me, it's just a natural progression. It's my partner in business and life, Debbie, is not here. When we got together, the first thing we said to each other was that we wanted to start a business. And I said, well, I know what I want to do. And she said, well, I want to do estate agency. I was, okay.
That's
well,
fortunate,
wasn't it?
Yeah. That's tied in well.
She could have done dog grooming or something.
Flower arranging.
And we set up a business ready to explore options. And knowing Ian for 20 years, I thought, let's start there. And here I am sat here. But it's just been a natural thing. I mean, the business I run as a mortgage broker, I don't actually do the mortgages myself anymore. I have a team of those. So I sort of had a bit more time after stepping back from the actually advising clients to have a bit more free time. And with that free time, I've decided to fill it with selling properties in Caversham.
What better to do as a hobby? Yeah. Spend your Saturdays at open houses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not?
So it's always been a passion property. Debbie's exactly the same. Her background is slightly different. She's come from a background of health. She worked for a company that does workplace well-being and some community work that gets people active. But again, her passion behind that has always been property. And yeah, it's just a bit like heart to heart. It was the perfect relationship to launch into.
So I've got a theory about property and property finance specifically. If you take cash buyers out of the scenario because they're a different breed, the actual price of the property has become almost as irrelevant as the price of a car. It's more about your affordability on a monthly basis is what drives the market. So whether prices are 500,000 or 700,000 for a 3-bed semi has no bearing on whether someone's going to buy that house or not. It's whether the mortgage payment is £1,500 a month or £5,000 a month. Just like if I walk into a Mercedes dealer or a Tesla dealer, I have absolutely no care how much the sticker price of that car is. It's what it's going to cost me a month. And I think housing has got to that same level where, I know everybody wants a deal, so everyone's going to try and negotiate a little bit off to feel like they get a victory. Yeah. But when it comes down to it, specifically from a homes and investing point of view, what's it going to cost me on a monthly basis? And is that going to be, for a homeowner, affordable? And from a buy-to-let perspective, is it going to return on my investment?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the mortgage market, as the property market, it evolves, and hence why now you can get 35-year mortgages, because someone will, again, as you say, I can afford, let's say, £1,500 a month. What does that get me? Well, now it can get you this property at 10 years, this at 25, and this at 35. Oh, guess which one's the biggest and the best in your eyes? So yeah, I'll go for a longer term mortgage if possible to get me the house. And you're right, it doesn't matter if the house was 500 or 600, it's still within my budget. So yeah,
I feel like that's how people budget now. And I feel like that's because most people will visit or speak to their mortgage broker first. Yeah, the mortgage broker leads them with their affordability. Yeah. So you don't think, okay, I'm going to go and spend £500,000 on a house. Your mortgage broker tells you your budget to go and find something because it fits with the repayment schedule.
Yeah. With mortgage lenders' affordability calculators, it's definitely improved. It's got a long way to go yet, because you've got different types of people earning the same salaries and they spend it in different ways. And with as AI and more open banking information comes available, then lenders will get possibly smarter, because different types of people. You get someone that earns £5,000 a month and spends 4, and you got someone that earns £5,000 a month and spends 1,000. So which one can afford more? Yeah. Well, in theory, the second one can afford a lot more on a mortgage, but the lender will look at it and most of the time come up with pretty much the same number. And one of them can afford it comfortably, the other one can't. But they get by. So yeah, as more advances in technology come in, which the mortgage market's still way behind, then lenders will adapt to the client's actual affordability, meaning that some people will not even be able to afford the house they're in, and others will be able to afford something much bigger and better. So,
and I think tailored is it's got to be an advantage to the right people, and it's got to attract the people that the lenders actually want to lend to, not the risky ones.
Yes. Yeah. Because in the past it was 3 times salary, 4 times salary. That was it. Everybody got the same based on a 20 grand salary. You got 80 grand. That was it. Now there are affordability checks done, which they'll take out all the negatives, and all the negatives being car loans and credit cards, etc. But what we're hoping one day is we get round to the bit where the lenders put in the positives. The guy that doesn't drink, smoke, doesn't have
Bet365 accounts,
exactly. doesn't have a gambling habit, doesn't drink, doesn't spend much money other than maybe a mobile phone and a gym membership, and that's his lot. And he thinks, well, I can afford a lot more than the guy next to me who can't. So I think, well, it will come because lenders are doing lots about that type of technology with the open banking, where you can see what someone can afford each month. But yeah, let's
how does that
hopefully exciting changes?
How do you think that kind of update will affect the buy to let and the investment market?
Well, that's I mean, at the moment, the buy-to-let market is tougher than it's been for 10 years, maybe longer.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got some very good landlords out there with lots of equity in their portfolios. If they're with a portfolio lender, it will all get counted as one. But through lots of individual lenders, they can find themselves unable to borrow the same amount currently as they would have done in the past when rates were slightly lower. So yeah, I think buy-to-let affordability will mean the client has to get maybe slightly cleverer. They may need to start pooling their debts into one lender again. Like you used to get specialist lenders that would do this, which would maybe do 10 properties for you, and then it got cheaper to just individually mortgage you with 10 different buy-to-let lenders. It might be that bespoke lending comes back again, where someone says, well, you're making X amount on that one, losing on that one, but overall we're happy with affordability, so you stick a new one in. But those mortgages do exist, they just take a bit more work to get. So,
well, they've got to be bespoke, haven't they? Rather than just, right, this is a 2-bedroom flat, it's 200,000, it rents at 1,400, so we'll lend X on it, which is the current kind of maths that's run. I would much prefer to see a more bespoke angle for landlords who do have 4 or 5 properties plus, because you will have one that's got 60% equity, you'll have another one that's got 25% equity, and really you should be able to average that out, because you're looking at a portfolio, so you're leveraging the portfolio rather than each individual property, rather than being penalised on one and winning on another.
Yeah, and a lot of these lenders disappeared after the credit crunch in 2008, and some of them are starting, like Capital Home Loans disappeared, now they're back. Well, they've been back a while, but those sort of lenders that did the landlords portfolio type mortgages, they're still there, they're just less of them. Maybe over the next 2 or 3 years there'll be more of them.
I think the risk to a landlord on the flip side of that is all your eggs are in one basket. What happens when you come up to refinance and you've got all 10 rather than having that average out? And
if you've got 10 different products with that same lender, you can never get all of your properties away at one time, because there's always be one of them will be tied into a fixed rate, and one comes off, but you still got 6 others all tied in, so you can't move them all. So there needs to be. It would be ideal to have one product, everything under one redemption penalty, but whether those products will ever exist to the flexibility of the landlord, they exist to the flexibility of a lender, of course. But
funny that, isn't it? So, Andy, let's talk Caversham.
Let's.
70 odd rental properties on the market at the moment in Caversham.
70 on the market at the moment. Over the past 3 months, there's been around 150 that have gone to market. So there's obviously a good market there for rental properties. Out of those that went to market, big majority of them are houses compared to flats. You're probably looking at about 30 more houses compared to flats. And it seems to be demand for your 2-3 beds in Caversham, which makes me think that it's sort of a family area to go to. I mean, it looks good figure-wise for Caversham. You're looking at the average rent of $1,600 a month as well, which is, I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? Being in an area. But what makes Caversham the place to invest? So what does it have in it? Obviously, it feels like quite a family community there. Obviously, sort of by the River Thames as well, you've got Caversham Lakes there, and so it's
closer to the River Thames than it was last week.
Floods happening. So I mean, it feels like a good place to invest. But what I'm keen to know is, what are the average house prices for that sort of investor's property? What is the ideal investment property? Where are you going to get the biggest return for your money? So yeah, what prices are we talking?
With Caversham, you're right. What's the advantages? The advantage is for a lot of people, you mentioned River Thames. Obviously, you've got the town centre. You're a 5-minute drive either direction out of Caversham. You're in the countryside. You get to Henley. You're on your way to Oxford. So, but you're also 5-minute walk across the bridge. You're into Reading. You're on the train. You're into London in 23 minutes. So for commuters, it's ideal. You're also, again, 5-minute walk from Reading town centre. So Caversham, although it's got a town centre with shops, you've got obviously a much bigger town centre, restaurants, and Reading's still expanding. If you want to buy a flat, probably Caversham. There's a handful, but Reading's got a much bigger pool for that. But the one thing that lacks on there is parking. Whereas in Caversham, you're likely to get something that's got parking with a 4, 5, 6-minute walk across the river and you're in the town centre. So, if you're looking to invest, you could potentially go for something bespoke and a bit of parking and a bit of history, or you go across, you get a brand new flat for the same sort of money. So no parking, but again, you're the same distance to the train station. So I think the biggest selling point for Caversham is the location. I mean, getting in and out with traffic's a bit of a pain, but if you're willing to walk across the bridge, as I say, you could leave your home and be in Paddington in 30, 35 minutes if you time it right with the trains, which, there's not many places you can do that in and around Reading.
No, so two-bedroom terrace property, which is sort of the most in-demand property, not just in Caversham area, in the surrounding areas as well, down by the southeast. So in Caversham, what am I paying for a two-bed terrace?
Probably somewhere at the moment, anywhere depending on condition and location, 3 to 350.
Okay,
you might have to go slightly over 350 for something that may have just been adapted slightly, but about 300, 350.
Yeah. Okay, so if you were paying 350, you get a rent of 1600, 1650. You're probably looking at what yield of 6%, something like that, which is pretty standard. So it's it's still good to get anything above 6% at the moment, the way that the things work out. So I think when you were talking about Reading and you're talking about the new flats going up, probably be lucky to get one of those if you get in front of the overseas investors and buyers, because they seem to be buying it all up at the moment. Obviously, it's just slightly different, isn't it? You've got those brand new apartments in the town, in the town centre. Not everyone wants that.
No,
you probably want to go into and Caversham's a more scenic place, isn't it? Picturesque place to be, and away from the hustle and bustle of Reading. Like you said, it's only 5 minutes away from the train station. So and normally when you see investment going to town centres like that, the surrounding areas they improve, don't they?
I didn't want to call it the ripple effect with current River Thames situation.
But they improve. They get something from it as well, because you've got people that want to go into that area, can't get into that area. So the first thing that they're going to do is go to the surrounding areas. So for an investment property, instead of purchasing one of those brand new flats at 350k, because that's what they're doing, it's all bells and whistles, I would much prefer to go in the surrounding areas, get something a bit bigger, get a house instead of a flat, which is going to appeal to more people, and look to get more money back from the investment that's going into the town centre. So Caversham seems like a...
If you look at sort of north, east, west and south of Reading town centre, obviously Caversham benefits from, number one, the river, but you look the other side, you've got things like the hospital, the university, which are great for investment if you want to rent out to students and hospital staff, etc. If that's what you want to do, fine. If you're looking to potentially rent to families, then Caversham stands out for the fact that you do have shopping centre and you do have the countryside parks, etc. And you walk across the river and you go into work via train, whatever, or you work in Reading town centre. So, or you go the other way and you go to sort of the outskirts of sort of South Tilehurst, but similar models, but you just don't have the river and that appeal. And
I think that's where it hits it is you walk across the bridge and the demographic instantly changes as you go into Caversham. People are willing, able, and are paying a 25% premium to be there because it's the nicer end of the town. All of the benefits of Reading without being in Reading. Having its own centre, coffee shops, Waitrose that we always bang on about. Whether it's Waitrose bringing the price or the price bringing Waitrose, that answer will never be ended. But that's where, as an investor, if you're looking to buy in, it's horses for courses, like you say. Whether you go city centre, contractor type buyer or renter, or whether you go to a Caversham, you're going to pay a premium for your property, but you'll get a premium rent, and you'll likely find a tenant who is concerned about how good the primary schools are, and how good the community is, and how close the local walk is, and that kind of thing. So it's got all the benefits of the city without being there. It's sort of maintained its independence in quite a unique way.
And as you mentioned Waitrose, but there's lots of little independent shops as well, which makes it slightly different to the Reading Town Centre, maybe, where it's vape shops and then you've got the chains. If you go past sort of one street, you do get all the chains, but Caversham does have, it has a Costa and a Waitrose, but it also has lots of small independent cafes, restaurants and shops. So
that's where your community sort of spirit comes from, isn't it? If you've got the independent shops, it's all community based. The people that live in Caversham will more than likely go to those independent stores rather than the big players in town. So, and like you said, Mike, I think with Caversham, it appeals more to families. You've got the schools around there, you've got all of the walks around there, independent shops, the community spirit. So if you've got an investment property there and you're renting to a family, probably you've got more of a long-term investment there because they're going to stay there for longer, rather than if you've got somewhere, let's say Reading, it's going to be a high turnover, which obviously with high turnover becomes more costs because you've got more costs to remarket a property, etc., etc. If you've got long-term tenants, that's ideally what you want as an investor. Obviously, investors are different. They've all got certain goals. You might have your student housing landlords, your social housing landlords, your professional couple landlords that they want those type of applicants. But the majority of the investors that I speak to always look for the longest securing tenant. Who is going to stay in my property for the longest? And for somewhere like Caversham, that's your family. So to buy an investment property there, that's what you want. It's a bit of a no-brainer, really.
So the other thing I notice about Caversham, my observation, Andre, is property's more of a commodity in Caversham than it would be across the river in Reading, where they can rip down an old bus station and put up 1,200 flats, or an old warehouse, or Toys R Us, or prison, maybe next at some point. Caversham's very much full from the perspective of how much more could go in. So if you buy a freehold house in Lower Caversham, you're not going to suddenly see another 1,500 houses built next door in Lower Caversham.
No. You've got the golf course where I think if they've started or going to start. Yeah, they have started. The Caversham golf course, that's there's not much else I can
other
think
than very small infills and redevelopments.
I mean, you get the odd site like the BBC site. Whether they'll ever do anything with that's got some land. It's a big, but you're talking one or two places you can think of that they could potentially redevelop. Other than that, no, you're right. It's pretty much full. And when you get to the countryside, then you find it very hard to get planning to go much further.
You've hit Oxfordshire, you've hit the green belt, and nothing's going to happen.
So all you can do is go up, and there's no sign of everything going upwards in Caversham, i.e. blocks of flats. So space is a premium.
Let's get your predictions on the money market. experienced mortgage broker of 25 years.
Okay.
So buy-to-let rates from Santander down 0.5% today. Purchase rates for 60%, loan to value below 4%.
Yeah.
I think, Andy, did I predict that in December?
Yes, you did. I was just about to say, you've got to be careful with your predictions now, because Mike did it. Got his ball out before Christmas.
Andre actually knows what he's talking about. I was just throwing numbers around.
No, it's I think, I think we'll see rates of 3.5% within this first quarter. So by end of March, I think, again, lenders are pricing 5-year fixes better than 2-year fixes because they want you on their books for 5 years. If they're going to give you a decent rate, then they don't want you going in 2 years' time. So I still think 5 years will be slightly cheaper than 2 as it is now, possibly 3.5. I don't see it coming much lower than that for the remaining year. I think it will stay pretty steady.
Any sight of a price war for arrangement fees on buy-to-let mortgages?
That could be,
because that's the big thing, surely.
Yeah, I mean, lenders are doing it for the obvious reasons that if the rate's lower, the rental calculator works. If the rates are higher, they don't work. So they're trying to keep the market going. And the only way they've worked out to do it at the moment is by increasing the fees. So, in the end, there's going to be a limited amount of people that will pay a 7 and 8% fee. They'll either decide to stick with their existing lender and go on to some SVR rate, which hopefully is dropping, or they will just not invest, which obviously doesn't suit the property market, doesn't suit us, and it doesn't suit the lenders. So, I think the fees will start coming down. I think 5 will be the highest that anyone will have the cheek to charge, but it will come back down. It has
because buy to let is kind of locked to cash buyers or very, very high equity buyers at the moment, because otherwise you look at a 5, 6, 7% arrangement fee and go, pfft.
In 2008, lenders had to get clever and imaginative, and we are where we are now because of some of the things they did. So we're now in a slight transition stage where, again, they're messing about with ways of making deals work and charging 6, 7 and 8% as a fee to make a deal work. For some investors, that works. But for the majority, it probably doesn't. So lenders will think, right, okay, what next? Okay, so because obviously if a lender came in now at a 3.5% with 1% fee on a buy-to-let, they'd get swamped with business. Yeah. And that wouldn't help them for service levels. So, you're right, though. One lender will put their head up, get a load of business in. The rest of the lenders will think, oh, we could do with some of that. Yeah. They've all got targets.
Yeah, exactly.
And lending targets never go down. The guy that sits at the top of a bank will set his sales team targets. He never says, let's do less. Do less.
Said no one ever.
Let's do more. So if you can't sell something that's unsellable, so in the end, the team will have to go, the feedback will be this just doesn't work, and they'll see some other lender getting lots of business through the door and they'll change. But I can see rates dropping on the buy-to-let side. I mean, you've still got lenders offering over 10% as an interest rate. And I know, scarily, they're writing quite a lot of business, which is worrying. They've got no incentive to drop from 10 at the moment. But when the others start dropping on the fees, then it'll have this ripple effect, as you say, and it will start coming down. So, I think no interest rate drops this year. God, I'm going to say that out.
You think there's no central bank interest rate drops?
If there is, it will be in the last quarter.
Yep.
And then
Fair guess.
I think there'll be some possible ones at begin. Because when are we going to have a general election? November? Is it November?
Likely or
around May.
No,
I said now.
Oh, is it May?
Yeah, May, June. Apparently, he's going to call it. So whether that happens or not, I don't know. They always change their mind.
Yeah.
Andy dealing with facts from the Conservative Party.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna stick with nothing until the last quarter.
Okay.
There we go.
think it'd be a popular shout from a new government to drop interest rates, wouldn't it? So give someone a racing start. So, Andre, thanks for joining us. All the best with your business in Caversham. If you need to get hold of, if you want a conversation with Andre, obviously his contact details will be on the show notes. Until next week, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Investors Corner podcast. Why have we made the Investors Corner podcast, Ian?
I think online at the moment there is just way too much noise, waffle and nonsense. Everyone's got an agenda. So the goal was to make a podcast for people that want to invest money in property or other areas where there's no waffle, there's no nonsense, there's no agenda. It's opinion led, but it's an honest opinion. And it might not be the right answer, but we're going to share it.
So on the podcast, we're going to supply people with access to mortgage brokers, financial advisors, planning experts, development consultants, everything around the property industry and the wider fields.
Yeah, so if you're looking at investing in the future, you know that just having an income from your employer or from your business is not enough to give you the life that you want down the line. We're going to hopefully give you some of those answers that will give you the solutions you need for the future.
So please hit the subscribe button. The more subscribers we get, better guests that we can get on and the more people that we can reach. So hit subscribe.